The air inside the skyscraper's top-floor conference room was so thick with anticipation it felt like glass could shatter just from the weight of unspoken pressure. The floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a commanding view of the city below. Cars like ants, people like specks. Inside, however, one man sat at the head of a massive oak table, sweating despite the chill of the central air. He was Russell Camden, a titan in the business world, a self-made billionaire whose ruthless decisions had crushed competitors and built an empire. But today, for the first time in years, Russell didn't feel in control. Asterisk across from him sat 6 men in dark suits, members of the elite Shenzhou conglomerate from China. Their body language was unreadable, faces stoic, eyes locked on Russell. As he tried and failed to keep his composure, his translator, the highly paid, impeccably credentialed Mr. Aldridge, had failed to show up at the last minute. A sudden car accident on the freeway. Minor injuries, nothing life-threatening, but the damage was done. There was no one to bridge the chasm of language between two corporate giants. And Russell's billion-dollar merger was hanging by a thread. Asterisk Russell had tried using translation apps. Useless. He'd stumbled through broken sentences, making half sense, and quickly realized he was offending more than impressing. The board members murmured among themselves, clearly confused, possibly insulted. One even checked his watch. Russell knew what that meant. He was losing them. Years of careful planning, flying back and forth across continents, billions in future. Profits all slipping away because he couldn't say what he needed to say. Asterisk, gentlemen, Russell said again, trying to project calm. Please, just give me a moment. My team is searching for another interpreter. They simply nodded politely. In the hallway outside, chaos unfolded. Assistants scrambled. Phones rang. Every interpreter in the city was either booked or unavailable. They even tried patching someone in via Zoom, but the connection lagged, and the nuances of business negotiation died in static and buffering screens. Asterisk, then, from the corner of the hallway. Someone cleared his throat. Asterisk, I can help, said a quiet voice. Everyone turned. It was Diego Morales, the janitor. Asterisk, he stood in worn gray coveralls, a mop in one hand, a bucket by his side. He was in his late 20s, average height, dark hair tucked beneath a faded cap, a name tag hanging askew from his chest pocket. He didn't look like salvation. He looked like the kind of person nobody noticed. And yet when he spoke again, he did sue in perfect Mandarin. Asterisk, I heard what's happening, he said calmly. I studied at Tsinghua University in Beijing. I speak the language fluently. I understand Chinese business customs. If you let me help, I can translate. Asterisk Russell's assistant blinked. You're the janitor. Asterisk, yes, Diego nodded. And I'm also a linguist. Life took some turns after college, but I can help you. I know what's at stake. Asterisk inside the conference room. Russell sat with his head in his hands. That's when the assistant ran in. Asterisk sirred theirs. Someone who can help. The janitor. Asterisk the... What? Russell looked up incredulous. Asterisk. He says he speaks Mandarin. He studied in Beijing. He wants to help. Asterisk Russell stared, silent. What was this, a joke? Asterisk, but then he glanced toward the glass walls of the boardroom. Through them, he saw the Chinese businessmen beginning to shuffle, standing to leave. Desperate times. Bring him in, Russell said. Asterisk, the door opened, and in walked Diego Still. In his coveralls, mop now left behind. The room went still. Every head turned. A few of the Chinese men looked visibly surprised. Asterisk Diego bowed slightly in greeting, and then began to speak in Mandarin, fluent, smooth, confident. Asterisk for the first time in the entire meeting, the businessmen smiled. Asterisk within moments, the energy in the room shifted entirely. Diego translated with perfect poise. Not just words, but tone, nuance, respect. He understood etiquette, formal speech levels, cultural sensitivities. He didn't just translate Russell's words, he enhanced them, adjusted metaphors that wouldn't work cross-culturally. He emphasized humility where needed, assertiveness where it mattered. And when Russell spoke, he began to feel powerful again, like his words mattered. Asterisk after 20 minutes. One of the Shenzhou executives leaned forward, eyes sharp. Asterisk, he spoke in Mandarin directly to Diego. You're not a translator, are you? You studied with scholars, not in translation booths. Asterisk. Diego nodded with a faint smile. Correct. My major was international business and linguistics. I was a cultural liaison for a firm in Shanghai before. Things changed. Asterisk. The executive nodded with respect. Your command is impressive. So is your heart. I believe we can do business. Asterisk. And just like that, the room relaxed. The negotiations continued for hours. When it was over, Russell walked out with signed papers and a deal worth $3.2 billion in future revenue. Everyone cheered. The press would go wild tomorrow. He was back on top. Asterisk as he stepped into the hallway, flanked by his advisors and PR team. He turned to Diego, who stood quietly by the door. Asterisk. Diego, Russell said slowly, eyes searching. Why are you doing this? Mopping floors? Asterisk. Diego shrugged, almost embarrassed. My mother got sick. She's disabled now. Had to come home, take care of her. Janitor work was steady and flexible, not glamorous, but it paid the bills. Russell was silent. Then he said, come with me tomorrow. We're flying to Tokyo. I need you in every meeting from now on. I'll double your salary, no triple it. Asterisk. Diego smiled faintly. You don't have to do that. Asterisk. I do, Russell said. You didn't just save a deal today, you saved me. Asterisk. And somewhere just outside the camera lens of that moment, someone was already writing the headline. Diego Morales never imagined his life would change because of a mop bucket and a moment of courage. The next morning, he stood on the private tarmac beside a sleek Gulfstream jet. Dressed not in janitor's coveralls, but a tailored navy blue suit Russell Camden himself had ordered delivered to his apartment at dawn. Beside Diego stood Russell, talking animatedly on his phone, already planning deals for their Tokyo meetings. The plane's engines roared to life. But Diego's thoughts were louder still, trying to make sense of the last 24 hours. Asterisk. Once airborne. Russell finally relaxed into a leather seat, swirling a glass of sparkling water. He motioned for Diego to sit across from him. Asterisk. I've had over 100 people work under me, Russell said. MBAs, lawyers, CEOs. None of them impressed me like you did yesterday. Asterisk. Diego smiled faintly. I just translated. Asterisk. No. Russell shook his head. You navigated. You negotiated. You understood the psychology behind every sentence. You didn't just help me talk, you helped me win. Asterisk. Diego looked out the window. I just didn't want to see it all fall apart. Asterisk. Russell leaned forward. That mindset. That's what I need. Not just a translator. I need someone who can think in two worlds. You could be more than my interpreter. Who could be? My cultural strategist? Asterisk. Diego hesitated. I'm flattered, but I'm just a guy trying to take care of his mom. I'm not sure I belong in boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. Asterisk. Russell's voice softened. That's exactly why you do belong. You're grounded. You understand people. That's rare in my world. Asterisk. The plane touched down in Tokyo 5 hours later. A convoy of black sedans awaited them, whisking them to the city's financial heart. Diego found himself in marble-lace skyscrapers, greeted with bows and polite reverence. He was introduced as Russell's special advisor, and the title seemed to grant him an invisible shield of respect. But Diego was still himself humble, clear-eyed, focused on doing the right thing. Asterisk. The next deal involved a tricky logistics contract with a Japanese robotics firm. The problem? The lead negotiator on the other side, Mr. Kenji Ota, was known to detest American arrogance. The previous delegation from Camden Global had insulted him by speaking over his interpreter, dismissing Japanese etiquette, and bragging about saving struggling companies. Now, the company was on the verge of choosing a European partner. Instead, asterisk in the boardroom, Tension hung in the air again. Asterisk, Russell, this time, did not speak first. Diego did. He stood and bowed deeply, introducing Russell in fluent Japanese, not just formal, but poetic, subtly referencing Kenji Ote's background, his father's war service, and a proverb from an old haiku. The room went completely still. Ota smiled for the first time in days. Asterisk, what followed was a masterclass in diplomacy. Diego translated every word, every pause, every nod, with the precision of a violinist tuning a priceless instrument. When Russell made a joke, Diego adjusted the timing and context so the cultural humor landed. When the topic shifted to finance, Diego explained idioms that had no direct English equivalent. He even stepped in at one point to rephrase Russell's answer when it risked sounding too transactional. Asterisk. And then the unthinkable happened. Kenji Ota stood up mid-meeting. Was ready to walk away from this deal, he said in Japanese. But then I heard him speak. He pointed to Diego. You sent us someone who speaks not just language, but honor. This partnership has my blessing. Asterisk, he bowed. His entire team followed. Asterisk, deal signed. Just like that. Asterisk, back in the hotel suite. Later that night, Russell poured himself a drink and handed another to Diego, who politely declined. Asterisk, you realize what just happened, right? Russell asked. That deal's worth $500 million in revenue, and it hinged entirely on your words. Asterisk, Diego looked down. It's not just about the words. It's about listening. Asterisk, Russell smiled. Exactly. And that's why I want to make you my chief of global strategy. 5 years ago, I was the janitor. Figuratively, my company almost collapsed. No one stepped in for me. I clawed my way up. But you stepped in without anyone asking. It's that kind of loyalty and talent. It's gold, and I want to build something with people like you. Diego stood quiet for a long moment. I'll do it, he said finally, on one condition. Name it. Every office we build overseas, we hire local interpreters and cultural consultants. We treat them with the same respect you've shown me. Russell grinned. Deal. The next 6 months were a whirlwind. Diego traveled across continents. He became a legend in business circles not for his suits or swagger, but for his unmatched ability to unify people from different worlds. CEOs in Dubai, tech leaders in Berlin, cultural diplomats in Rio wanted to meet the janitor translator, who could turn failed deals into billion-dollar partnerships. But Diego never forgot where he came from. He visited his mother every weekend. He donated anonymously to language schools. He even helped create a nonprofit offering free business translation services for immigrant-toned startups. Then one day, on a global live stream celebrating international trade, Diego was the keynote speaker. Journalists expected another polished corporate speech. Instead, Diego stood at the podium holding up an old gray mop. This mop, he said, is not a symbol of where I started. It's a reminder of how many brilliant minds are being overlooked. Every single day just because they wear a uniform, or speak with an accent, or come from the wrong side of success. He paused. Never underestimate the quiet ones. Never dismiss someone just because they clean your floors, because sometimes they're the only ones who can clean up your biggest mess. The crowd rose to their feet, tears, applause, history. Maid, as the camera panned to the audience, caught Russell wiping his eye, and beside him, Diego's mother smiling proudly from her wheelchair.